All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. This is Bilal Zaidi, and we've got Jack Butcher here. What's happening, my man?
Good afternoon, boys. Happy Monday.
Yeah, it's a different recording day. We should bring that up.
Well, first of all, though, let me just introduce you, mate.
Yeah.
This is Trung Phan as well. And we're going to get onto this a little bit later, but we've talked about Elon Musk being your best friend, but he's now become your reply guy. So
at what point does somebody become somebody's reply guy? For my purposes, I'm going to say 5 interactions because that's
well, I think he's at 4. Oh, no, it's 5. Okay.
4 replies and a like. Guys, we're going to walk through it all.
Who's counting?
Yeah, I'm counting, but what I want to bring up is I always show a beverage. So I'm on the kombucha now because we're recording on a Monday. Bilal's about to tell you why we're recording on a Monday instead of our typical Thursday morning. So, I have a little kombucha in the afternoon. It's not as heavy as coffee, but I get that caffeine going, right? And this is the ginger one. So it gives you the kick. Anyways, not investment advice.
Well, yeah, look, so as you guys can probably tell, I'm not in my normal location, and it's because I'm, we're going to talk about a few things today. Let me not spoil what's happening.
Carry's the lead, man. What's going on?
We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the post-mortem from England game. We're going to talk about the Delta variant, which is picking up like crazy. And we've got a few other things. But the only thing that came back for England, unfortunately, nothing came home. The only thing that came home was fucking Delta variant for me. So,
right, hold on. But just to be okay, Bilal got COVID. But let's just make it clear that we're not 100% sure it's Delta variant. But tell us what you think and why.
Yeah, and I'm right at the end of my isolation period. I feel a lot better, but I'm still not 100%. But yeah, so to say, man, where do I start? It's most likely happened that weekend anyway, that I saw the game. And the next day I started feeling a little off, found out my other friend I was with had tested positive, obviously got checked. But the interesting thing is I got checked and it was a negative. But because I was off, I still just kind of stayed at home, isolated and rested up. The next day, a fever picked up and it went all the way up to like 1 or 1.5. I was feeling like shit, obviously. And many days later, I'm feeling a little bit better. But man, there's a bigger story here. And I know Trung's been researching it. So we can go into that. But you go on.
I knew nothing about that. I've been seeing the headlines, but up in Pacific Northwest Vancouver, nothing's happening, right? I know there's been like Delta sweeping through obviously other parts of the world, but in North America it's like LA, New York, right? The huge population centers. But what's funny is the All In podcast, right? David Sachs got it. So what I would say is this: if you haven't listened to the All In podcast and you want to learn about Delta variant, I would highly recommend listening to that podcast episode they just had, because they basically spend the entire episode talking about Delta, and it really gets you up to speed about how serious Delta is as a mutation of COVID. It's like, I think my takeaway from that is just this particular mutation. It just is a realization that this stuff's going to be with us forever. It's a common cold now. It's the flu, and it's going to keep mutating. And the other big takeaway from their chat and just my general, superficial internet reading is, it's you're going to have a vaccine or you're going to get COVID. Like it's going to happen. The reproduction rate or the R naught of the Delta variant is insane. I think it's like 6. The thing
I even heard up to 8.
Up to 8, right? So that means the average person infected will infect 8 other people. I think COVID is 2 or 3. So we're talking like it's a totally different world now, right? The positive thing being, if you are double vaxxed, like Bilal, you are, the symptoms are not, the concerns we had last year where, you might, it's fatal. It's like, it's a common cold. And this seems to be the consensus where if you're double vaxxed, much more mild. So that, that's kind of the silver lining, is like the vaccines are working. But having said that, there's a really in-depth thread that I actually retweeted. We should just add it. People should read it. 2 things: listen to All In podcast, read this thread that we'll post here. But a lot of the thread touches on what I just kind of parroted out, is just that this thing's going to be with us. The real question now becomes from the policy side is, are you going to go back into shutdown in the falls? Are you going to shut down the restaurants again, all the in-person interactions? And I think my takeaway from the thread He's not, his name's William Hoeing. I don't even know what his background is, but I'm going to guess he's a biologist.
That sounds reliable.
Yeah. I have no idea, but Tyler Cowan posted it. Tyler Cowan is like he's an economist from GMU, George Mason. And I trust his instincts. So again, not investment advice, not health advice, but he's just basically saying it's going to be with us. So now we have to make a decision. Are we going to shut things down again? Or do we just kind of move forward with the realization this is what it's going to be like? And the reality is that the non-vaccinated populations, they're just people that will not get vaccinated. If unfortunately, it sounds like, there's a chance that this could just rip through the entire population and become very bad. The unfortunate thing is the risk to the rest of us is that as long as COVID's around, it's going to keep mutating. So if people don't choose not to get vaccinated and it hits this R0 of 8 and it's so transmissible, it can, mutate into something that's just, we're not going to
deadly
be able to defend against.
The one thing I'll say is, so I'm obviously fully vaccinated. I did have the J&J shot, to be fair, which isn't as, it's the ghetto one.
Yeah.
Right? So it was the one shot and done. But, again, this probably doing its job because so far I haven't ended up in the hospital, touch wood. The kind of concern I had was, obviously the fever and stuff went high, which can happen. That can happen with a cold or flu or whatever as well. It's just more like after. We don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to have long COVID or any of the symptoms later down the road. I've still got some stuff still going on. And then you're obviously concerned with your partner, the people you're seeing, obviously. And honestly, the hassle of I'm staying in this bedroom basically for 10 days. That's why I'm not in my office. And it's just my girlfriend has to do the same. She's not seeing people pretty much. She doesn't have to, but she's being careful because she was directly exposed to me. There's obviously a big hassle, but thankfully seems to be all right. The All-In pod was really, really good. Was it David Sachs, right? He's the one
David Sachs.
He was actually sitting outside and went for dinner with 3 people. And he said he still got exposed to it from that. I guess public service announcement. If you get any symptoms, I would assume that you've probably got it, even if you test negative, because there's a delay. So I did it on the Monday, and eventually on a Friday it came back as a yes. And so that's happened with 6 other people I know, people that got Pfizer, J&J, everything in 3 different continents. So it's happening all over the place. Anyway, we don't want to turn this into a big downer.
Yeah, let's not turn it into one of those zero hedge articles. But markets were down today, July 19th.
I mean, seriously,
big time. It was the worst day I think in 2021 for the Dow. But having said that, I think just to summarize again, it's just it's going to be with us. We have to start treating it mentally like the common cold, the flu, which also means you just don't shut everything down, right? I think mentally that's how people are going to start thinking about it. And I just don't think. Personally, the appetite of people is for that, right? I mean, I'm just out of Vancouver. You guys have been spending time in the summers. A month ago, everybody's like, oh my God, it's over. It's over. Let's get back to our lives. Right? It's going to be very difficult to rein it back in. And if we are in a place where if you are double vaccinated or you are vaccinated, that this does not become the fatal threat that we all worried about last year. It's that's just the reality and you got to move on. And get vaccinated, man. That's really all we can say.
Coming from a doctor's family, right? You got your family's
brother, get all those vaccines.
That's it, man. All right. Well, listen. So that's the COVID stuff done. We also want to share. So we're going to talk about England post-mortem after, because we had some thoughts that were bubbling up throughout the tournament that we kind of didn't have time to really discuss. And now after everything's finished, we wanted to kind of touch on. It's not just about football; it's about nations and stuff as well. But yeah, really quickly, there's a Telegram group. Jack, do you want to talk a little bit about this? Because you had this genius idea, and we've been testing it out with a small group of people for the last day and a half, I guess. What was the idea, and what we doing?
Yeah, talk us through
we've got a little direct feed into the episode planning. So the reason this podcast came about in the first place, right, was us DMing each other on Twitter separately, turned into a group chat, sharing content that's or sharing stories that are breaking and reacting to them among one another. And then thinking about, we had an idea a couple of weeks ago. We talked about how would we compile the stuff that we're talking about into some low effort newsletter, basically, because none of us is, in a position to take on a full-time job and like turn this into a media company of its own outside of these recordings. And then sort of struck me that maybe it's more interesting to just give people like a window into the actual conversation that we have to plan the episodes. So you can go and dig into the links yourself. You can read along like the back and forth between everyone. And then we can take some, people can start to interact on different platforms like Twitter or wherever else. And we tweeted out a couple of times. We got a bunch of people in there.
We'll link it in the show notes. So just look at the notes right now, and you can join the Telegram group there.
Jump in, yeah, and you got a few private messages. I've gotten a few private messages. People saying it's like new and interesting and different. So we'll keep at it until that is no longer the case. But it's been fun to work on it.
Well, actually, we probably will just keep at it. Period. Right? Because we're doing it anyways, and we're literally just doing it. Right? It's so low friction for us. Well, the question I had was, you were thinking about doing this you want to do a startup like this, right?
Yeah, I had this idea a long time ago, but now I think more about it and how we're executing it. It's like, if you were to build a platform for something like this, you're competing to get people off of the apps that they already have installed, right? Yeah. So doing it on something like Telegram, where I would assume 80% of the people that listen to this, if they're not already on there, they probably have network effect if they were to get on there, right? Same with like a WhatsApp or whatever else, but Telegram has this broadcast feature.
It's amazing.
So trying to build an app, and I think a lot of people get stuck in this trap, right? Like they come up with an idea. What you don't really realize is if you create a new software environment to broadcast something, the challenge isn't getting people interested in the content, it's getting people to spend time on the platform. So This is like, in the thesis is we get to build brand, but without the cost that you have to stand up a platform and all the effort that you would have to make to get people onto that platform. It's the same reason why, building a network on Twitter is exponentially easier and probably long-term a better play than trying to stand up your own platform, right? That's just
your own website where people are just coming every day to the website or something.
Well, Jack, right? So I think episode 3 or 4, we went through you losing a bunch of your Twitter accounts, and we went through the whole conversation of you being able to, they basically kneecap your business, right?
Right.
Because that was your entire distribution. How do you view Telegram? That's also somebody else's platform. But is it because it's messaging versus social network, you feel more secure? Also, we should talk about the founder, Pavel Durov. He's interesting. He was basically the Mark Zuckerberg of Russia, and he left Russia because the state made him sell the company to the Russian version of Facebook. Do you guys not know his background?
No, I have no idea.
I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, let's talk about it, because it will feed into my question to Jack of his platform fears. So, crazy story. Pavel Durov is his name. He is born in 1984, young dude. He founded the equivalent of I don't even share my screen. Actually, you know what? I will share my screen. Okay, this is the guy.
Mate, were you reading that page when you recited his date of birth, or you just knew that?
Yeah, no, I read that. Okay, so can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, Wikipedia here. So obviously everything on this page is true. It's Wikipedia. So there's his face and young dude, but super fascinating. Check this out. Okay, so VK is the name of the company, and more or less Putin strong-armed him to sell the company to his own cronies, right? So this is where it gets crazy. So he leaves Russia, fair enough. Check this out. He attained St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship by donating 250 grand to the country's sugar industry. So he gets kicked out of Russia and goes, unreal. And check this out. And he secured 300 million in cash from a Swiss bank account. And so all his assets were seized, forced to sell Russia Facebook. This guy's loaded though. I think he's a billionaire. Yeah. Holy shit. He's worth $17 billion.
Wow.
Dude, so this guy's a monster. So TLDR is he built Telegram, and Telegram also is doing a crypto coin. It's called the TON platform. They raised a bunch of money, but then a lot of SEC got involved. I think they had to pull away the fundraising for the coin raise. But the investor says here includes Laureen Powell Jobs, which is Steve Jobs' widow. But I want to stop sharing. Let me just summarize what we just saw there. Pavel Durov, Russian Mark Zuckerberg, forced to sell his version of Facebook to Vladimir Putin's cronies, and then basically was asked, or strongly suggested to leave the country. Goes to St. Nevis and Kitts. I think I said, or is it St. Kitts and Nevis? Donates $250,000 to their sugar industry for citizenship, and was able to leave Russia with $300 million. Not bad. It probably left a lot of money on the table. But having said that, he has said from that experience and being eventually, he knows how bad the state is, right? He's like, Telegram, I will always be in control of Telegram. And I will never let people do what happened to Telegram, which happened to VK. And according to Wikipedia, if the guy's worth $17 billion, he could probably make it happen. Unless, of course, Vladimir Putin does something insane and knocks him off, which he's been able to do outside of Russia. I mean, he's done it in the UK. So anyways.
But one thing, go on, Tron.
No, go ahead, Bob.
No, I was just going to add to one thing about the Telegram group. But if you had something on Telegram itself, we can finish that. You done?
No.
All right. So the only thing I was going to add to what you guys described before, like the purpose of the group, is a lot of people kind of message us and say what they like about the show is like it feels like they're hanging out with us. Like, yeah, they get to learn about what's going on. There's some dumb, funny stories sometimes, but like ultimately they like hanging out, right? And it's like it feels like they're here with us, and that's one part, right? And we only really get to share like 4 or 5 things a week. Right. But like looking at our current doc, there's literally like 25, 30 things that we brainstormed in the last week to talk about that half of them we won't ever even get to. So I think what people have been messaging me about so far, what they're liking about Telegram group is they're saying, one, it feels like I'm getting an insight into like your real group chat. Like we're talking the way we talk, like we're not like faking stuff. We're just our way we talk to each other. And then the second part is we're kind of giving commentary on stuff. Like even if it's kind of like joking around about it half the time, but sometimes we're actually giving our real opinions and saying, oh, that's interesting. Did you think about this? So you're kind of getting to get a feed of all the stuff, all the edge of the internet stuff we're finding that people also like, as well as like the latest stuff going on. So I think it's a really cool idea. Let's see how it goes for a few weeks at least. And if you guys are listening and want to join, you should click the link, but also let us know what you think. Just tweet us or comment on the YouTube video and let us know what you're thinking, because I think it's a really unique idea. I think other people are going to try doing this sort of stuff.
No, Jack's been saying it. He's like, we got receipts. Jack, I mean, listen, we're not the first person to do Telegram group, but I think,
of course,
I think what Jack pointed out though was when we were just chatting we have lots of chats, people, not just Telegram chat. There's other we might charge for the other 3-way chats. No, but Jack was basically saying, it's like, we were talking about the newsletter. Everyone's just doing Substack, right? It's like, wait, it was like, well, let's just do this. This is even lower. This is the lowest friction thing possible. That's why when Jack proposed it and I jumped in the group and I immediately went, this is brilliant because this doesn't interrupt my day at all. Like, I do, I've said in the past in previous episodes, I try to leave my phone at home as much as possible when I'm out with the family, just because I try not to let it own my life, because it does otherwise, right? But like I'll come home and I'll be like, I got to catch up on this, right? Now we just add this Telegram group, 2-3 minutes here, read and reply, try to add something funny that you saw. And a lot of this is so, if you did this to your Twitter feed, I mean, people would unfollow you in 2 seconds, right?
Right.
Too much, but because it's the Telegram feed, it has a feeling of the chat. And then people screenshotting chats is just so different than screenshotting a Twitter reply, right? It just feels so intimate. You know how people always talk about why podcasts are such a great medium? Because somebody's in your ear and it really feels like you're chatting, you're in the room with them. And it's like you said, Bilal, it's the exact same concept, but with the group chat format. I think it's genius.
And I think the other thing is, like, not to get too in the weeds with this, but like a lot of the time when you think about media and how like we're creating media essentially, right? You have to think like, what does that other person who's listening, watching, reading feel when they're reading? Like, are they laughing? Are they feeling like, oh, my mind's tingling because I learned something? Or are they like, oh, not another email? Like, oh, no, now I need to go process all my email and it's in the same inbox as my work. Like, that's how I feel with, I pay for so many newsletters and I have it filtered out, and half the time I don't even get to anymore. Whereas a group chat is, why do I go to a group chat with the boys? I go there because I want to go laugh. I mean, I spend most time in those groups like Telegram or WhatsApp or iMessage. And it's because I know the people. That's one thing. There's like a recognition. 2, I have some sort of like positive feeling towards them. And then 3, like there's a stream of like fun. That's basically what it is, right? It's a stream of fun. And yeah, you're going to once in a while learn something, and that's part of the podcast style. But anyway, we don't want to give away all the kind of like recipe of it, but I think it's a really cool idea. And like you said, there's lots of people doing Telegram, but everyone's in there and it's way too much. It's like 600 people talking. Whereas with us, it's like we're the curators of the group, right? And we will have other things where we can interact with people. And you'll see if you comment on YouTube or Twitter, we respond to every single message pretty much. So there's ways to still get in touch, but this is like a new thing. So hope you guys enjoy it.
Wait, so let me get back then. 100% agree with everything you just said. And I don't want to lose a thread back to Jack. Maybe we make it super brief, but like, Jack, own platforms, you have concerns about this. Tell me your thought process around Telegram. And I know you're also on Discord, and you shut down your Slack for visualized value, right? So how are you thinking about these different chat platforms as part of your distribution, knowing that you've been rugged by Twitter?
Yeah, I don't know, it feels less risky for whatever reason. I think the thesis or the ideology of Telegram is like encryption, and I don't know how true that is, like whether or not there is somebody scanning this for keywords, and if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get rugged. But we'll find that out. But it doesn't feel to me like as risky as posting to a public feed or like having multiple accounts. I think the thing that I got flagged for on Twitter was I'm running like 11 accounts from one email address, and that's like against the terms of service in some way, depending on how you want to interpret it. But this is like you have one Telegram account. It's very clear what the intention of the channel is. And I think the behavior on this is like, I mean, I've seen like, I think trading groups is probably like one of the examples of these like really high frequency, just like thousands of messages a day where people are subscribed to them. Yeah, Telegram, I think, you know, also based on the story that you just told us.
Pavel Durov. Google that dude.
Yeah, that's a hell of a story. And you would like to think that that's, you know, he stays true to the reason he started it. And yeah, that your messages aren't being scanned or read or like sniffed for anything that might get you banned. But the other beautiful thing is we have so many, like we have this anti-fragile structure, right? Where it's like, oh, if you liked it and it gets taken away, next week we just move it to another platform and
Signal
pop up again. Yeah. So I think there's like, obviously it's a bump in the road, but people are just getting, I can't remember who said this, but it's like people are kind of getting uncancelable at a certain point. I think maybe if you lose your Twitter account, you're like really in trouble on YouTube. Maybe I'm actually disqualifying my own point here, but like you can direct attention towards other platforms. As long as you kind of hang on. And email is obviously the most anti-fragile distribution still, right? That if you have that list as a CSV, stick that on a, you know, on a thumb drive and you can take it anywhere.
Cold storage, cold storage, baby.
Mate. Put it on chain.
I'll tell you something. If anybody, we could probably pin this Telegram combo at this point. I'd love to get you guys' opinion on it. But the limits, though, I think you alluded to it, right? Is like social still like as the broadcast medium, you still want to go there to really build the audience. So you guys remember Milo Kalakanafkis?
Yeah.
Really controversial, political, just a total flamethrower, right? And ended up getting canceled for saying something about child sexual abuse, his own experience. But he actually, I think, he tried to come back on because he got knocked off all the platforms, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. He actually tried to get back on Telegram, and I got to find it. And he was complaining. He's like, I think these groups are capped at 10,000 or something. And he's like, what the F am I supposed to do like with 10,000. Like my reach before was in the millions and millions, right? So like, I think that's actually an interesting case study. If anybody wants to dig deeper into what happens if you do get deplatformed and try to build on like these individual, these smaller. Listen, it's possible, but that guy was going from millions, right? He was huge. I mean, this guy was like Bannon's right-hand dude, or like he was informing a lot of Bannon stuff before Bannon became Trump's right-hand dude, before Bannon got completely thrown out the circle, right? So really interesting move, I think, that the Jack to do with the Telegram, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
I think just one last point on all of this stuff is, I think that the ability exists technically to get your message out. Like there are all these other like decentralized, well, there's all these, the closer you get, like the more you dig into this argument, it's like AWS can shut you off at a certain point, right? Like
right. Oh, the layers. Yeah.
App Store,
You're talking about
App
the
Store
layers.
can take you out. So to reach a certain number of people that aren't like completely technically savvy, using Tor and running Linux and all this stuff, it's like you have to use a platform past a certain point.
Yeah.
Right? There's just not enough people who understand how to use, or these platforms don't have network effect to the degree that you can get anywhere close to the level of, you can't make a living with the number of people you're in touch with.
Well, I mean, I think to exactly your point is look what happened in Trump's blog. He shut it down after a couple of months.
Nobody can be bothered to
he was just like, that's the power of Twitter, right? This dude had 780 million followers on Twitter and was the most powerful person in the world for 4 years. And then he goes off and does exactly what you said. Just build it, own property. And just like, couldn't drive anybody. I couldn't drive enough, right? Shut it down.
And maybe, most recognizable person in the world at that point.
Yeah.
It's
and has
crazy.
a rabid following. And he still couldn't.
Right. Yeah. Wow. When you frame it that way, it's like,
dude, when you frame it that way, it's actually depressing, right? If we lose Twitter, we might have to just call it a day.
Well, I'll say even with email, because email is obviously, like you said, the gold standard, the best of the best. Like you own the actual email addresses, you can take that to wherever. But even email isn't bulletproof. Like there's
promotions
not
tab,
email.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that's not necessarily someone taking it away from you, but the equivalent of an algorithm or the
Google
use case.
still controls
Google in that case says, well, people are getting pissed off with all this spam, so we're going to create a new tab, and overnight your open rate goes from 50% to 12% or whatever.
100%.
That's as bad. Yes, for real. And then the second one, obviously the equivalent is Facebook trying to get everyone to say, like your page in the 2010s. And then like a few years later, they're like, oh, sorry, we got rid of all your reach. You have to pay to reach those people pretty much. You're only going to reach 1%. So there's always issues with all of them. So I think you just
listen, this is a long
plant a
way
garden,
of saying,
boys. Stop planting the garden.
If you care about non-investment advice, go join the Telegram group.
Yeah, we'll see you in there.
No, Bilal, it's going to be 106.9 on your dial, right? Get on the FM broadcast.
That's it. Yeah, that's true.
What is that? What station is that?
Tell him, Jack.
108.9. Sorry, I got it wrong, but we got to get you to watch it. It's a show. I think it's on Netflix, isn't it, Bilal?
Yeah, people just do nothing. It's the one, I sent you the Chibuddy thing, and you're like, what is a Chibuddy? Or something like that. He's one of the characters.
On the roast. Well, why don't we go to the next segment about
it's not food though, but close. He looks like it. But yeah, all right. So CTA, go click the link for Telegram. Let us know what you think on Twitter.
My goodness.
All right, that was but that was
Dude,
interesting.
I didn't see that coming, bro. That was
I know. That's what happens, man. All right, so let's do the post-mortem, boys, because this is something that I'm just going to read out a statement. Jack, I hope you don't mind me reading something that you'd said in our group, but I think it wasn't that offensive. You basically said you were watching the game, and this is a few games ago, and so this was the England game during the Euros, and you said they were singing the national anthem, and I was like, what the hell is this? It just kind of hit you, right? And that sounds like unpatriotic to some people, and we've had a whole few years of debate about people kneeling for the flag and during the national anthem in the States. And, me and you are both fairly patriotic in our own ways, I'd say. And maybe I've become more so since I left the UK, and maybe we can go into that. But I'm curious, take us back to that. What are you thinking about there? What's happening?
I think it's the content of it and the implication of it. I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, the English national anthem, God Save the Queen, lyrics are essentially, what is it? God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen, God save our Queen, send her victorious, etc., etc., right? And when I was coming of age, 18, 19, 20, I would like bust a lung singing that, right? Like just going nuts. And then like I'm sitting in the pub during Euros and I'm like, haven't we sort of evolved past this as a society where like there's some, old knighted person by birth sitting in a building somewhere that everybody, I mean, I've been separate from British culture for a long time now. So I've lived in the States for 11 years or something. And that's the only reason I ever would question the content of that tune, because you lived in a place where you can't imagine a group of people standing up and putting their hand on their chest and sing, like pledging allegiance to a monarch. And I'm not a history buff like Trung. So it's more of an emotional reaction that I'm having where I'm like, does that translate to a mentality in the country itself where people behave differently? And, after 2,000 years or 3,000 years of being a subject of the monarchy, does that change the way you see the world to the degree that a country like America, with a completely different pitch essentially to its citizens of what it's about, they end up in a very different place culturally, even though, there's shared history in many ways. It's just a fascinating
so wait,
debate.
When you were watching, I mean, everybody in the pub was standing up. You stood up, obviously, and you're just like, "Hey, man, this kind of feels weird."
Yeah, just like it just.
Jack starts downing his pint and.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying like I love England. I had a great time living there and stuff. It's just like I just started listening to it and I was like, this is odd. This is just bizarre. Like that.
When you zoom out of it and you think like, I've definitely had a similar feeling. And I'm just going to add a contrasting point to your side, right? Mine is almost the opposite. And this is something that's come up because if people haven't followed, after the European Championships, the three guys who missed penalties were three black guys. And
you guys lost.
We lost.
England lost to Italy in penalty kicks.
In a penalty kick, it was a crazy, tight game. The three guys at the end. And as an Arsenal fan, it was the worst scenario because Bukayo Saka is our like young wonder kid. He missed the last penalty. So I was like obviously really sad about that. And as I'm sure Jack was. But for me, what happened after, and there was like obviously a minority of people, but by this point becomes a loud minority, kind of hurled racist abuse at them on social media. They were commenting really terrible stuff, sending voice notes, uploading videos. And it was exactly that sort of stuff that honestly people like me didn't support England growing up. So mine was the opposite. I've had quite a nuanced discussion with like some of my friends from home, and it's almost like embarrassing to say now because I'm quite like proud of being from England. But growing up, I felt very much like a Londoner, and I was a British Pakistani person, and I wanted to support England in football because I supported Arsenal. But there was always a few incidents where someone would say, "Oh, why are you supporting England? You're not English," or like your dad has that experience 20 years before at work, and then I grew up in that household where he's like cheering for Pakistan against England in the cricket, right? And I do the same, right? So there was this kind of subculture within, let's say, London, for me anyway, where a lot of people, all the people I went to school with, I went to one school with all white people, another school with 90% brown and black people and mixed race. And like one of my friends who's basically my best friend is an actor, and him and his wife just created this skit. And it was like a 1-minute clip, and he's basically talking to an England shirt. I don't want to spoil it, but it's basically saying like, "Oh, I don't want to tell people about you," and it's kind of this like funny little thing. And everyone who watched that comes from my background kind of got it. Where other people like, "What's he talking about?" Totally. And the kind of summary is, I've had the opposite, where when I've left, people in New York, when I moved there, they were like, "Oh, you're British," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm British." But in the UK, I always felt like the Pakistani guy, So, and I don't think that's just me. There's a lot of people, even my friend here, who's a black guy from London, another friend of mine from London I spoke to is a black guy. They had similar things growing up. And because of that, and you know, the football world has changed, right? Like 20 years ago, there was a lot more hooliganism and the crazy stuff that would happen at the games. You would get shouted at certain stadiums for turning up. Now, if you go to an Arsenal game, it's super mixed. There's like a great crowd. So anyway, I don't want to turn this into a therapy session about racism in my life, but I'm just curious.
Well, I have a very Arsenal-pointed question, and it has to do with the game. So obviously, I'm sure the public reaction was like, you know, it was like, this is unacceptable, and you know, like the platforms are probably trying to deal with it and do the whole, you know, we can't be having this, right? So what is from your Arsenal world, like the Wonder Kid, like? What's going on with him? Like, do you think
everyone's been really most people have been really supportive, and even like a lot of celebrities and like David Beckham and Gary Lineker and all these kind of really famous prominent people came out and like supported them. This artist put this amazing thing together, which was like those three turning into three lions. And so, yeah, I'd say most of the country's been incredibly supportive, actually. But because of that kind of loud minority, it's been, you know, overshadowed a bit. And then politically, it's actually interesting because Boris Johnson, I don't know exactly, it was Boris Johnson and someone else, one senior MP, kind of came out trying to defend them. But then people use that as a way to say, well, you weren't supporting them a few weeks ago when you weren't supporting them when people were booing them in the crowd because they were going on their knee as well. You know, like they've been doing that throughout the tournament. So it's this whole big political thing. And I don't know, man. Yeah, I'd say most people, though, generally, from what I can see, are very supportive. And he seems like,
How do you think he will recover as a player? Because I'm always fascinated by this. You know,
definitely.
Like something like this, like
it can kill your career for some people.
Yeah, you're 19 years old.
And he's 19. If you said at the beginning of the tournament, like a month ago, that this guy was even going to play a game, I would have been surprised because there were 5 superstar players kind of ahead of him that are already proven. And even though he's an amazing player, he just wasn't expected to play. He kind of got in there. And from what I've heard is everyone in the training, you know, set up, the manager was like, this guy is just another level of professional. His mentality is strong. He's just like willing to do whatever.
It's going to make him stronger.
I think my hope is he's strong enough and he's talented enough to come through it. And he's also like, this guy got basically straight A's at school. He's like a level-headed kid. He's not like the guy who's like hitting the club, getting smashed every day, like a diva. Like he's like quite a level-headed, down-to-earth guy at the moment anyway. So my hope is he's going to come back and say, I'm going to use this to prove myself. And I think the whole country, I think people are going to be giving him a standing ovation, like when he gets in the stadium, because he was so brave, man. He stood up to do that. It was crazy.
It's just nuts, man.
It's mad.
Nuts.
Dude, honestly, the fact that he if you actually think about the circumstance of what he was doing, dude, the fact that he made contact with the ball and it went like, wasn't like wide right, wide left or over the net. He had you'll see kicks like Roberto Baggio in Italy in the 1994 World Cup, right? He kicked it right over the net. This is a superstar soccer player.
There's been some bad penalties this tournament. There's been some really good ones too, but those 3 were all, you know, they weren't the craziest, terrible penalties, but you know, at that moment, the best, like the last game, Harry Kane is the best striker in the Premier League, missed his penalty, got lucky with the rebound and scored. So it's like if the best striker in the game pretty much misses the game before and you miss as a 19-year-old, that's not.
Can you imagine? Oh my god!
He was like crying on the pitch. It was like really. Go. You got.
I mean, those photos were insane. Of just, I mean, you got. So speaking of chat groups, Jack was sending us some pretty insane videos when England was up 1-0 in the finals against Italy. Let's just say there were a lot of testicles involved.
And I think that was from before the game. I think because I got that as well.
Although that was pre-game.
Well, there was a guy who had like a
Wembley somewhere.
What was it? What's that like color? It's like a flare. It's like a flare.
He had a bottle rocket.
Thing,
He had a bottle rocket in his naked ass while pouring beer. I mean, dude. I mean, listen. I'm not gonna. Let's just say there's a video where somebody's drinking beer that has touched a lot of things that shouldn't have been touched, and that's all you need to know. No, but so here's my question: was that a super spreader event? because with what's going on there, no.
Yeah, the press is now saying that there's a huge number of cases that are coming out of the people that attended that day.
And the bad thing is, thousands of
because to just address what you said, because look, I was sending those videos as much as anyone, and I find them hilarious. But there's this kind of weird thing we have with British culture, which is like we don't really take ourselves that seriously. We find that stuff funny. People in the UK like to drink, obviously, at another level, right? So like we kind of respect it. But then there's like a line where you're like, oh man, like this is like really bad. This is not good for society. Like you're smashing up the whole place. There were people like trying to get into the stadium that didn't have tickets. They're like spoiling a day for like some people's best day of their lives, pretty much. Yeah. And they're spoiling it. And they're just like a bunch of thugs, basically, like hooligans and thugs. There were people beating other people up and stuff like that. So it's like, that's the kind of fine line, which like I'm calling myself out. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't share those videos because I think they're hilarious. And I'm not directly contributing to that, but it's a weird thing with our culture, especially, which like celebrates stuff, but on the adjacent side is like this stuff which is like should really be called out as bad. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, so in Vietnam, I lived in Saigon for 5 years, and there's like an expat community, right? It's like all the expatriates from around the world. The Aussies and the British, like levels of people getting fucked up. I got fined again. I'm probably at 6 right now. We'll deal with it later.
Yeah, we need a trunk count update.
Like, there's levels. Right? Well, here's the thing. Japanese and Korean dudes get gassed. But they get gassed and they pass out. Like, just such savage levels of alcohol consumption from Japanese and Korean expats. Just legitimately, I'm in bars. These guys are animals. Just downing whiskey and what's the thing? They'll drink harder. So if we're doing rankings, it's different. They will get equally effed, but like the Japanese and Korean dudes always passed out, and they're done. By like one, always passed out. The British cats, the British and the Aussie cats. Oh my goodness. 40,
and the Irish I'll throw in there because they're related. I know, but the Irish have a special place Irish, as well. I lived there for a couple of years, and they really brother. Teach you, man. But yeah, man.
The Canadians are more mellow. The Americans are mellow. The French are just jokers drinking wine while everybody's like chugging beer. Get out of here, man, dude. I'm not gonna make a blanket statement. In the expat community I was at, I want to clarify. Not the craziest about the French, man.
I think that Canadian part should coming out though, right? Because you Vancouver, so you got a little Montreal.
Quebecois. No, I'm cool. Yeah. I lived in Montreal also. I'm cool with the French, man. They're just doing the tiers of drinkers. I think that this is a perfect segue into me roasting England's food.
I got a closing thought on the football stuff, if that's permissible.
Hit it, of course, man.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
So, not to make this about our normal talking points, but I think my reaction as well was like let's bring a Balaji reference in. It's like the crumbling of the nation state in a lot of ways, like the brand of the nation state. You're just like, there's 11 dudes running around a pitch with a shirt on the same color. I've never met any of them in my life. I'm like, why am I so invested in this? And I think I just started like questioning that. And I was like, I have a like baby at home, nice family. I'm out, like I'm, just out of my mind, drunk. I'm like, I don't even really give a shit about this. That's where I ended up. And then I was like, and then just being adjacent to this, I'm like, for whatever reason, getting incredibly passionate about this thing that I haven't really examined why I am. And then you see the stuff that happens afterwards. I'm just like, I can't even bear to be associated with people who behave that way. So I'm like, yeah, it was just a real realization to me. And throughout all of those games, I was like, this is just a behavior that just something you take on unconsciously almost. And then when you start to question it, you're just like, well, yeah, that's just what we do. Why? I don't know. It's fun or something, but
it's completely irrational. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, you get to re-examine it in about 2 weeks when England's notching all those biking golds. Biking and swimming
That's
golds.
the other one, the Olympics, right? Like the Olympics.
Toyota just pulled out as an advertiser.
Oh, serious?
They're like, Toyota is a Japanese icon, but also one of the Olympics main sponsors in general.
Why'd they pull out?
there's just so much controversy whether or not the game should be held. Like within Japan, the majority of Japanese don't want the game to happen. Japan's in a state of emergency right now, still, and they're just like a lot of advertisers are like deciding whether or not. I mean,
it's done then. If Toyota's gone, I'm going to make the call now. It's done.
$4 billion of advertising is going to get rugged, and there's already been small outbreaks within the village too. Man, it's bad, dude. It's bad.
It's already crazy in a regular time. Like, just I remember when it was in London in 2012. It was, well, actually, they hyped it up like it was going to be the worst thing in the world, and then it wasn't actually that crazy. But the whole city, obviously, it's raging with millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just thinking now with the Delta stuff as well. I don't know what the numbers are in Japan, but I know it's been picking up.
There's no attendance. There's no fans, so they're doing that.
Oh, of course. Oh, they've already called that off. Okay.
Well, dude, hold on. 2012, Boris Johnson was mayor of London, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of actually what, like, when he was running on the campaign, he's like, listen, I handled the 2012 Olympics. It's a security threat. Everybody's worried. It ran smoothly, right? Like, that was kind of his part of his image of, like, a person as a politician. Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Bojo. Yeah, I remember reading.
I feel like you're undercover fan of his because
Boris Bikes.
I mean, he's funny as hell. But
I'll tell you, Bojo. Before I realized, I mean, I know people call him Trump light, but I mean, he's much more educated than Trump. I mean, he wrote a book about Churchill, and he comes from like pretty, old school educated Oxford. Is he Oxford? He's what?
I think it's Oxford, and he's like PPE Oxford.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure his father or his uncle was a pretty senior.
I think they were all part of the same group. Like, and David Cameron was, and him both went at the same time. So they were part of that crazy club. I forgot what it's called, Bowlington or
the pig thing.
The pig thing. Yeah, that's what we'd say. The pig one.
Hold on, for our listeners,
pig
things, you mean banging pigs as part of it?
Yeah, or like pigs' heads and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, this is another gripe I have with the English system. Is like, when you get distance from it, it's like that stuff is programmed, mate. That story is written for the next 200 years.
Yeah.
Who's getting in where and who's in charge of what.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just a different type of society than I've been living in for the last 10 years or so. And it's like, it's just an interesting like contrast. So
but especially like Oxford and Cambridge, that whole world is like, I don't know the exact numbers, but once upon a time, it's not verified. It was like 80% of people went to private schools, and only like 5% of the population goes to private schools, and yeah. So obviously that doesn't take away from political advice, not numbers advice, not mathematical advice.
Yeah, I actually have something that you guys will appreciate because I've already done a couple of cutting people off today. Dr. Fan, you guys will like this. So Dr. Fan's been watching some of these YouTube videos, and I'm having a meal with him over the weekend. You guys are going to shit yourself. This is Scout's Honor, 100% true, this conversation I had. He goes, hey, I've been watching your videos. And he goes, very promising start. He goes, the interview with the Stanley Druckenmiller investor, that was really good. He's impressive, and you did a great job. You asked a lot of questions, and you didn't speak very much. I thought that was very well done. But this other thing you're doing with the two other guys, all I hear is you talking. Why aren't you asking more questions? Why isn't it like the Stanley Druckenmiller interview? Why is it just you talking and droning on and not asking the 10 questions like you asked Stanley and letting them talk? Dude, 100% truth. This dude's calling me out for not giving you guys more airtime.
So funny. Also, so he thought the one you did before was the same part.
No, what's funny is like, it's such a good start. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times this guy's complimented me in my life, right? And classic Asian parent starts off with
solid start.
You think we could get him on for a segment?
Like, it's like number 3, the third time. I can already count it. Like I'm going from 2 to 3 compliments in my life, and he's like, Stanley Druckenmiller, great job. And then he goes, but you stop asking questions when you're with the other 2 friends, and all you do is talk.
Mate, we got Jack on as a guest.
Jack said, "Could we get him on the pod?"
Yeah, let's get him on, man. He doesn't talk very
cameo.
Much. So I'll talk with
just a little segment at the end. Maybe he reviews the last pod or something.
Yeah.
or we get some Trung stories from when he was a kid.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's got. That's great. He should do a 30-second review because he'll just tell you what he said here. It's like, this guy talks too much, doesn't ask enough questions. Well, What's
All
funny,
right,
'cause I'm
Tron.
about to walk in a segment where I'm going to talk even more.
Well, yeah, Trung, you had an idea because you've been talking about. Yeah, here we go. Let's just get straight to it. Trung wants
Okay.
to
Remember,
rip
people are
into
listening
British
too.
food. So.
Remember, people are listening.
Okay.
So it's Trung
for
sharing
all
his screen for
listeners,
people listening.
For anybody that's not watching the YouTube, I'd actually highly recommend at this point turning on the YouTube.
Jack,
But-
you ready to get patriotic, by the way, and ready to defend?
yeah, we're talking.
I'm fired up, man. I'm
Yeah,
fired
Jack,
It's got to go back to
If
basics.
Jack was wavering, if Jack and Bilal were wavering on their patriotism, they're about to get it back real quick. All right, CNN Travel. British food, the 20 best dishes. First of all, you're probably going to have a quibble with these dishes, the selection. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because one of my favorite running jokes is that the United Kingdom or England built a global empire in the 1800s around spice, the spice trade. Except it seems that they don't use spice in any of their dishes now. Like the entire
Don't get high on your own supply, mate.
Don't get high. So if you're talking about the nations with the best cuisines, I mean, you're gonna have Japan, you have Italy, you have France, right? England is nowhere in the ballpark here. But these guys are running the spice trade, so I've always wondered.
It's a fair point.
It's a fair point, right? I'm like, what is going on? So let's get right into it. Here are the 20 best dishes, and I want you guys to explain to me whether or not these dishes are representative. We don't have to do all 20, but let's get into it. Tell me what you think, and I'll tell you what the reality is. All right. Number 1, the full English breakfast. So we got some toast here, some beans, some tomatoes, a couple fried eggs, and ham. Walk me through that. How representative is that? How many of those have you had in your life? And is it tasty?
Missing a hash brown, I think. Is there a hash brown on there? Or is a hash brown definitely part of a full English, or it doesn't have to be?
I think
You've probably had more of these than I have.
I've had plenty. Yeah, I'd say this is like a well photographed full English as well, Trunk. So normally be a little bit rough around the edges than this. My ratios would be very different than this. I'd be going heavy on the beans.
Yeah, I was going to say heavy bean. You got to get the
more meat.
Is key.
Couple of sausages. Yeah. 2 eggs is good, but the rest of it, mate. There's a Facebook group called the Fry Up Police. If anyone wants to get into like dissecting fry ups, the concept is anywhere in the UK that serves a full English, you take a picture of it and you put it in this group, and it gets roasted individually. So they have like fry up specific roasts.
That's amazing.
It sounds like Trung's dream right now.
Okay, but hold on.
You would love it, man.
I want to walk you through. So to summarize what Jack said, this is representative. Maybe the picture is kind of nice. Obviously, it's probably staged for CNN. The ratio, maybe not enough beans here, and sausage instead of this ham. So I'm noticing one distinct thing here. I don't see any type of seasoning on this dish.
Salt and pepper, mate, on the eggs. What are you talking about? What's the
Well, the chives or whatever that is on the eggs would never ever be on there.
Oh
yeah, that's a little bit too much.
Chives look suspicious. Those chives look pretty suspicious here. So what I don't understand is this: how do you eat beans for breakfast? That's a legitimate question.
Oh man, well this is the thing. I have to say, I will defend beans because a lot of my friends who weren't English that moved to London, all of them love it. Because once you just start having it, you just kind of lean into it. It's like, it goes well. Because a classic student dish is something called beans on toast. So you don't have any money for the rest of it. So you get like you just have toast and you get 10p beans or whatever they cost. 20, I don't know. I don't buy beans anymore, but yeah, it used to be like 50p. I don't even know.
They're probably
Jack,
about £2 now, mate. Inflation.
Yeah.
So wait,
Yeah, exactly.
so beans on toast would be the equivalent of like ramen noodles in North America.
Yeah, very much so in a way. Or like we would have pot noodles and stuff, which is the same as a ramen, but you would have that. I would have that a lot at uni. I'm not gonna lie. Like the first year before I learned to cook.
All right, here we go. All right, Yorkshire pudding.
Look at that flag.
Okay.
Look at that flag.
This is my problem with Yorkshire pudding, and you guys can tell me whether or not it's correct. It's not pudding. This is not pudding.
It's like cookies here on cookies, mate. That's
okay.
Biscuits.
Pudding.
Sorry, biscuits aren't biscuits.
Okay, so pudding is a biscuit. Is that correct?
What?
No. Sorry, I'll come back to biscuits after. You
okay.
go.
So pudding is like chocolate pudding, right? Like Jello pudding. Is that correct?
Yeah. Normally, that's how I would refer to it. But this is a very specific type of pudding.
But it's
Yorkshire
not pudding.
pudding.
It's bread.
They have their own rules, mate. They call lunch dinner and dinner tea. You know what I mean? Like, literally.
Wait. This happens in Yorkshire. They call lunch dinner.
Or like in the North and Midland. I'm pretty sure. Like a lot of. I remember Gary Neville saying it on TV once.
Did you ever use tea when you were growing up, Bilal? Like,
no, we wouldn't to say dinner, but like, yeah, I mean, I would be at my friend's house and they would say it, but my parents are Pakistani, so we would call it like something else.
So also here, one comment, one question. Comment, no spice. Question is, do you guys like this thing?
Yeah, it's great.
It's actually
you need the gravy on it, like get the gravy inside it. But it's basically. A lot of people use it as a container now. So you bake a big one, then you put all the stuff inside, and then you fill it up with gravy.
Also, this shape is on purpose as a cylinder or like a something.
It bakes like that, right? What is it? It's milk. I think it's literally milk, flour, and water. So it's almost a tasteless thing. It's like
don't get drunk started on tasteless.
Probably a wartime thing, right? It's probably calories.
Okay, there you go.
That's cheap as you can produce them.
That's yeah. I mean, the taste list is pretty representative of the rest of the cuisines. This is okay. So you guys,
this is another level.
What is black pudding?
It's like is it pig's intestines?
Oh, I thought it was pig's blood.
Pig's blood.
Yeah. Okay, see, I'm cool with this because in Vietnam, I eat blood clots in soup dishes. I will eat intestines. I'll eat tripe. I love the nasty stuff. So tell me.
Yeah, Vietnam's got its own food stuff. We get to that next week, man.
I was about to say,
it's blood.
This dish right here, you have to spice this, right? Or else it's gonna be awful. This has to have spice in it. Maybe this is where
I think this is probably mixed up with a bunch of random stuff. I'm assuming.
A little salt and pepper in there, probably, mate.
Oats, congealed blood. I like it, man. I'm down with that. Okay.
Oh, this is a good one.
Toad in the hole. Can you describe?
What a great name.
What is it?
So this is the Yorkshire pudding mix poured around a bunch of sausages and then put in the oven. So this is essentially
it's like pigs
a
in a
hybrid.
blanket.
I mean, what is pigs in a blanket? I thought that had sauce that had bacon wrapped around it, right? Pigs in a blanket.
Is it British or is that French?
Doesn't sound.
It doesn't sound like a French name, to be fair. Pigs in a blanket. But yeah, anyway, that's a classic.
Okay, here we go.
Spotted Dick, classic name. All the names are pretty fire, you gotta say.
Names are incredible. Okay, so what is Spotted Dick? We can probably wrap it up after this one, or maybe I'll find fish and chips because that's the only one I like. So what is Spotted Dick?
Let's finish on fish and chips.
Well, I think this is a pretty retro. Thing is, pudding is the same thing as dinner and tea. Pudding is we refer to as a course. Did you ever refer to pudding as a course? But
pudding meaning dessert, you mean?
What's for pudding? Pudding?
Yeah.
Spotted Dick's for pudding. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a pudding. You understand what I'm saying?
You sound like you're talking about Cockney rhyming slang right now. Which is like, there's one word and we jump to this other word and then it means a whole different thing. But
pudding you'd refer to like.
I think you lost it, mate.
You could have a biscuit for pudding, but a biscuit is not the same as the biscuit that you're used to.
We have in the US.
At Wendy's or wherever you'd go. Is that
Trunk, you there?
Wendy's?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry,
cool.
guys. I've been pumped out. My kid's popping in and out. So we should probably wrap this up quickly. And it's perfect because we got lucky because the next two dishes are actually delicious. Shepherd's pie and fish and chips. These are the national dishes, right? They got to be.
I mean, I have to say that fish and chips is a bit ridiculous because that looks like
fish and chips.
That's more like fish fingers, isn't it? From Iceland. You get like 10 of those for a pound.
You need the
I have to admit, I went to school in East London, Walthamstow, where there's a market which is like a street market. And it's the longest market in Europe, and it's proper Cockney. It's like the guy's like £2 a banana, like throwing stuff at you, and like it's crazy. And then there's always like a proper East End Cockney geezer who's serving this in the newspaper. And we would go there after school, and it would be like you throw the vinegar on it with these fat chips, which are just basically massive potato wedges, the way we do it. And it's actually like fresh cod, lightly battered. If you get a good one, it's actually kind of banging. So I will
read that second sentence out.
By age.
By the age. Go ahead,
By the average age of 16, the average British child has eaten this dish 4,160 times. That's hilarious. Oh my god!
Wait! Is that? I want to know if that's for real because that's.
I feel like that must be a joke. That must be
260 times a year.
No, that can't be right.
On average, too. So some people are clocking in higher than that.
Wait,
No, I will say, if you include fish fingers, because I had that at school a lot.
Well, this is fish fingers.
That sounds like the entire school year, 5 days a week.
So you have it for lunch and dinner, right?
Then you
And
have an
tea,
apple
sorry.
crumble with custard after.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, Trung, just to wrap up. I know you got to go in a second, but
You can literally see my kid. He's like,
yeah, I know, it's so good. He
got
wants
his
to jump in.
Legos. You
No,
can
it's so
hear
good.
it. That's why I'm
No,
pausing.
it's cool. If you got to go, it's all good. The one last thing I was going to say is that fish and chips kind of got replaced by chicken and chips in a lot of places. So
is
because
it?
fish and chips became really expensive, and then, because it's kind of like harder to get fish, and it's like £6-10 sometimes. It used to be for like the working class person would eat this like a generation ago. And now chicken and chips, maybe we have to do this for a longer segment, but
it
there's a
deep
whole
fried
culture.
chicken, or is it
it's like
baked?
KFC equivalent, but there are
like
specific
this.
chicken and chip shops, especially in like in London.
Oh, man.
It's like you can get chicken burger. I used to have this almost every day at sixth form college. Chicken burger, 4 wings, fries, and a drink for £2. I'm not lying. I had that. It was
And
insane.
it's chicken. What was the name of the shop, Bilal?
Oh, it was like Ash's fried chicken, but
Cottage.
my favorite was HFC halal fried chicken, and then it was what was it called?
HFC.
Chick in
Halal
Jack
fried
space.
chicken.
Yeah, Chick in, like like an inn, like a bar inn or whatever.
Hold on.
I got a good one on that subject.
Dixie.
There was a,
Yeah,
go
go ahead, Jack.
there was a kebab shop in Cardiff called McDonough's.
That's brilliant.
That's class, isn't it?
Oh, but there's one in Ireland
borrowed
called.
some.
There's one in There's one in Ireland called Abracababra, which was pretty legit
Nice.
as well.
Mate, if you're listening to this and you know any good kebab shop or chicken shop names, post them in the comments.
Oh yeah,
Yo,
That's
yeah,
a great
we'll never
Well,
run them up. So let me put this joke, that one that I've been joking with Bilal for months now. The real national dish for England is butter chicken. Can we?
I think chicken tikka masala. Chicken tikka
tikka.
masala.
Okay.
Yeah, same shit. It's basically the same, but they use cream,
Explain
a little bit more
to
cream.
the listeners why and the viewers why there's a bit of a running joke that this is a national dish.
No, I think it's actually officially the thing now. No, like it's the most popular dish. I don't know if it's like which they count as the national dish. It's just because everywhere you go, like you can go to a tiny little village, and there's going to be a Chinese takeaway and an Indian takeaway, and like a supermarket. And that might be the only thing there. And everyone loves Indian food pretty much in the UK, I find, universally. And you've got like people go as families, but they also get takeout or takeaway. And then you've got like the late night drunk crowd as well who like it.
Oh my
So
God.
there's a whole, and then there's obviously like fine dining if you want to do that too.
Amazing drunk food.
I mean, Indian food is incredible, man. It's
Well, here,
definitely-
actually, you're 100%
You've been to
correct.
Dishoom, Bilal. in
yeah,
London.
incredible. Yeah,
Unreal.
respect.
No, but also
so
what
good.
I will say is that I will note, I did a quick Google. So my instinct was that it was just a national dish as a joke to say, because obviously there's so many Indians and Pakistanis in. Obviously, Pakistanis don't eat. I mean, you guys eat chicken tikka masala.
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
mean, the thing is, it's not really, we don't make this at home because this is more like a made for white people dish, but I like
Okay,
it. Like
fair enough.
I order it even here. Like, no, you know what I mean by that? Like General Tso's chicken is not really a Chinese dish. It's made for Americans, right? So yeah, go
obviously,
ahead.
and India are a different. The subcontinent of India used to be the British colony, obviously, which is a connection. But to your point, it was actually in 2001. The British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook said in a speech that chicken tikka masala is the national dish, is a symbol of a multicultural England. So there you go.
That's a great, so it's official. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't realize when they think of England, they think of the Queen, right? And now some of them might think of the hooligans because of what's happened or whatever. But like, that's the England I know, obviously. And Jack, I'm sure, knows as well. It's like, it's the most, in certain parts, incredibly diverse as anywhere. And it's just a unique thing where in the US you get Indian food, but it's not as prominent. We kind of talked about that before. Last thing I was going to add before we go is on the chicken shop stuff. Lastly, just to close the loop there's a whole culture of it, of like people just go to the chicken shop, and there's 2 really famous YouTube shows. One is called Chicken Shop Date, which is hilarious. Amelia, she's this like kind of posh blonde girl, posh sounding blonde girl, and she does like interviews in chicken shops with grime artists, like musicians and like famous people now.
Amazing.
And it's such beautifully shot, and it's really funny because of the contrast. And then there's a guy called the Chicken Shop Connoisseur who went viral, and he's this little dude who wears a little suit and does like really serious reviews of these £2 chicken shop places, and it's so funny. And so I'll send you a couple.
Porno doing the pizza reviews, right? It sounds like that version.
It's
of it.
like that.
Yeah, it was before that, right?
I think it was before, probably. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, but I know you got to go, Trung, but yeah, thanks for.
I think that's a perfect way to end it. I love talking about food, dude. I'm really happy we did.
We could do this every week.
No, for sure.
And actually, one thing I will say, we're talking about roast. A good English roast is kind of hard to beat, to be honest.
Yeah, how is that not on the list? It probably was further
staple.
down.
And roast and Yorkshire pudding, that's a pretty classic combo, right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Part of it, yeah.
All right, boys, let's call it quits then. But yeah, thanks for anything else before we cut off?
No, I'm good here, man. I really appreciate the Monday afternoon, guys.
Nice one, man. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, let us know, and join the Telegram group, and speak to you guys on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.
Ta-ta.
Awesome. Peace out, guys.
Bye-bye.